What's up, y'all? This is Christ Culture, the podcast. I'm Kiana.
I'm Calvin.
And we are joined today by Taryn and Brandon. What are we talking about today?
We're talking about work versus play. And here's some of the points we're going to hit.
Finding our grace when we're in play.
That self-love isn't selfish.
And how we can incorporate play into our work.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about how to make your play feel more productive. So you don't want to miss this conversation. Stay tuned.
What's up, you guys?
Hi.
Hi. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Excited. First time doing something like this.
Yeah, me too.
Really?
Ooh.
Mhm.
that'd
You
be
nervous?
fun, then.
No, it's just something new. Yeah, we're just hanging out. We're just chatting. So we'll
Cool.
see. We'll see where it goes.
Good, good. You guys want to maybe talk about a little bit of your background, who you are, what's going on in your life?
Yeah.
Sure. Ladies first.
I am currently a graphic designer, and I just started a new job, and I do a lot of like package design. I grew up in church, and my parents are like pastors and like worship leaders, so I've always kind of been around. And yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And my name is Brandon. I work in ministry. I do kind of a split between some digital stuff and lead the young adult ministry we have. So grew up in church, went to a Christian university, got a degree in graphic design, and kind of took me all sorts of different directions before I ended up where I am. But
Okay.
yeah, from Northern Virginia and still here. So we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see what Lord has.
Are you from Northern Virginia?
Yes.
Okay.
From Lorton.
Okay.
Oh,
So
shout
Yes.
out to
I'm a long way away from here. I'm from Michigan. So
Okay.
Oh, nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't grow up around here. Key, I always forget, you were born in Cali,
I was
right?
born in Cali.
But you basically grew up here.
Yeah, we
Okay.
moved here when I was 2. So I just say I'm from here,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
technically I'm a Cali girl.
Yeah.
I'm similar. I was born in Memphis, and then we moved
Okay.
here when I was like 4, and then
You
so
just say
I
you're
say I'm
from
from
here.
Lorton.
It's
I'm from
easier.
here. Yeah.
But you know where your blood is at, you know?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we got to give a shout out to Bree for connecting us to you guys.
Yes.
Thank you, Bree. Yeah. I think it's always dope to like have a conversation with people who you don't actually know that much, because I think so much more comes out of the
Oh,
conversation.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Me and Key
Yeah.
talk to each other so much. Sometimes we're just like,
Let's get somebody else on here.
Yeah.
yeah.
Would love that.
So you guys chose to talk about work versus play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting topic, especially both of you being involved in ministry. I'm very curious to hear your perspective on like how you balance that whole thing. So let's just jump right into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you balance your work versus play in your life with ministry and still try to maintain your relationships and go out and do things? How do you go about that?
Yeah, it's I would say it's not easy, and I think the way society kind of operates does not prioritize like so much of like when we introduce ourselves, we rarely like we always lead with what we do.
Yes.
And so I guess it became like a big priority of mine probably like 9 months ago to try to have some sort of balance. And so it was just creating like having some conversation to create some boundaries. And it hasn't been like, I haven't been perfect at like kind of operating within those boundaries, but it was like, all right, ministry is like, there's always something to do. So it's like, it's easy to work a little bit all the time, but it was like Friday. So I started just practicing like a Sabbath. But Friday and Saturday, I'm like, my days off. So it's like, I'm going to do everything I can to not work on those days.
Yeah.
But sometimes people need things from you. And so it's really easy to fall back into it. And
Especially in a job like ministry. Like you said, there's always something going on.
yeah. So I think I'm still learning, but I think the key was just like starting somewhere and not trying to focus on the end goal so much as just like gradual steps.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, definitely. In my previous job, before I started the one I'm now, I really struggled with like kind of setting boundaries and like that and finding my balance, just because I worked at the church and like I feel like I was always constantly there and doing things there, which I love about ministry, but I also like felt like I never really had a balance of break, like to take care of me or like do like even like a Bible study on my own or that kind of stuff. So now that I've started this new job, I've been setting more boundaries and kind of just like figuring out like wake up, do my quiet time, and then like go on a walk and just like spend time with God, and then come back in, eat breakfast, whatever, and then just being more intentional, I think, about taking care of myself and finding like time to relax, and then also finding time to like spend time with other friends. And yeah.
That boundary is like really big. Like I like that you said you started observing a Sabbath, because that's something I had to do too. Like, and I want to also tap to your guys' creative side. But observing that Sabbath was a boundary that I had to create when I was like, oh yeah, I can do everything. I say yes to all these things. And then I end up just being burnt out. So having that one boundary is really big. And like also tapping to like other boundaries that you guys have, where you're taking that time to have like self-love and self-care too. Like, can you guys speak on more of the boundary side of balance?
Yeah. I guess like I just had a conversation with like my boss, because obviously like he sends me the work, like it had to start with him, but the boundary itself is like, I'm just like, I realized I caught myself the other day, because again I haven't gotten it down yet, but I'm checking, I need to put like a passcode on my like Outlook email, because I'm opening that like as much as I'm opening Instagram at this point. Like I feel like just that reflex of unlock my phone, check to see if I have an email. Like I was doing that the other day. So the boundaries, like, Brandon, don't open your email on Friday. Like, there's always more to do. Today is not about doing. Today is about like being. I have to like remind myself of that, kind of every Friday. Like today's about resting. Today's about playing. And I think I'm still trying to figure out the play part, but yeah, it's inviting people in to kind of like check in on you, hold you accountable with that. So
Definitely.
Yeah.
I would say for me, kind of like setting the boundaries now in my current role is I do a lot of design work, and I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. So I tend to like stay up late, like even if I don't need to, and work on something like for so long. And I realized like that was like kind of damaging like my relationship and like my friendships, and like I didn't get to spend time with everyone. So now I've been more intentional about like closing my computer at a certain time, or like if I do have to work late, then like I give myself a time, and I'm like, I'm stopping at this point and I'm going to bed. Like I'm not staying up till 3 a.m. Like, cause at that point also like I'm not even doing anything. Like my brain isn't even operating, but just being intentional. And then also like setting like dates, like with my boyfriend, or like to go get coffee the next day, like with a friend, and having like boundaries so that I'm not constantly working and that I'm also playing. But yeah.
And I was thinking like you asked like specifically for us as like more creatives, and you being a graphic designer, I'm thinking about how maybe when you're editing a photo or something, how easy it is to just keep adding things, like to never know when to kind of finish.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Like how that sometimes probably like you spend way more time working on something than you
definitely
like thought you would.
Yes. I do that so much. That's usually why I'm probably up late, because I'm like, oh, I need to add this and I'll do this. And then you zoom out and you're like, I've been staring at this screen for hours, and really there's not that many changes. It still looks the same.
And that doesn't even feel like work
either.
So it's like finding where the balance is between that, where you're like, this is actually fun and I could stay here and do this for hours. But realizing like I also need to clock out and get some sleep, or like go eat something. Or, you know?
Yes. That's what I was just thinking about, like, especially for you, Brandon, talking about being in ministry. I think so many people look at ministry as something other than a job. Yes, it's church. Yes, it's based off a relationship with God, but it is still a job. You have to show up, put the work in to get that paycheck. And I just know, like, from a personal perspective, my father's a pastor as well. And, like, he was at the church all the time growing up, like, from the time the sun up to nighttime. And I resonate with that so much, just trying to find that balance of, because it's so important to you at the same time, how do you cut it off? Like you said, how do you find that balance? I was just talking to you before the episode. I was like, I had to cut 2 things off that I actually wanted to do, coaching football, because I just found I didn't have the time to do it. And then like this Saturday, as a matter of fact, I had canceled everything that I was supposed to do this Saturday. And I found myself laying there and I was just like, am I lazy? Like, should I not be up doing something right now? And it's crazy because 2 messages that I heard this morning, both of them were just talking about rest.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about how rest is actually something that's still productive.
Yeah.
And that's
Right.
something that's been hard for me to grasp in finding that balance. Like we're talking about work versus play, but sometimes that play part of it is just rest. It's just actually doing nothing. And that's something that's been very difficult for me to,
Oh my gosh,
to
yeah.
grasp.
Yeah. That mindset of like, I need this rest
Yeah.
is so hard, especially as a perfectionist, especially as a creative, somebody in ministry where like your work is something that's more purposeful or more passionate, that when you do have that time to rest, it's a matter of like, how do I turn this off? And finding that perspective and that mindset of my rest is actually being productive.
Yeah.
How do you guys find that, where your rest is something that your body is calling you to do? And how do you turn off work even when you are resting?
I would say probably, I mean, I don't have the password on my Outlook app, but it's like similar, just like I'll
don't
put,
yet.
yeah, I have different do not disturb settings on my phone. So I have one that's called like work meeting, one says like work weeknight sleep, and I can control like who can notify me during those times, like when I have them turned on. So when I'm not working, I have one that's called like no work, and I click that. So like I won't get emails through my work email, like I won't get any of that. But I do still get that urge to like check my email or like pick up and just look at it. But that's a boundary that I've kind of set and I try to stick to. Sometimes friends just holding me accountable as well, and let them know like, hey, like we're out right now, like I'm not supposed to be working. Like if I look at my phone, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm interested to hear what practical things all of you guys do. I know, like you talked about setting the thing on your phone, but like we can turn the devices off, but it's hard to turn your brain off. Because one thing for me, especially like with the podcast, I'll be trying to rest, and then I'm like, I should text him about this before I forget about it, or I should take a note about this. I should write this down. I should do this before I forget. So what do you guys do to handle the brain part of it?
I think it's this. Okay, so like we went through a 10 Commandment series back in like April, May at where I work, and again, like Sabbath was something I was personally learning, and so I offered to teach on it because I'm not really seeing it practiced by a lot of my counterparts, and so much of like Sabbath has to do with our identity, because we're conditioned to think that we are valued by what we can produce. But Sabbath is like telling us that we are who God says we are. Like we are his children, and he calls us beloved. Like we aren't, like I have to continually remind myself of that based on like, cause part of me, it's like, I want to check my email on my day off because I want to feel needed. I want to feel valued. I want to feel like I'm contributing in some way. But on that day, it's like reminding me that I'm like so much more than what I can put out. And so I have to remind myself of that identity on those days. That's kind of like the mindset shift, because otherwise I'm going to keep taking those like notes late at night. I'm going to make that phone call. I'm going to send that email, whatever it is. So practical steps, I don't know. Mine, it's like, you made a point about like do not disturb. I have it scheduled so when I wake up, it's already like kind of like locked down as much as I can. And I just have it, I labeled it recharge on that day, and it's like as few notifications come in as possible. Like everything's silenced. I guess it's little things like that.
I love that.
Yeah. I think going back to what you said about like wanting to feel needed and work, you know, like I'm definitely guilty of that too. And I'll think like, or I'll be laying in bed and I'll have this idea for work. And I'm like, oh, I need to go write this down, or oh, like I should log on to Slack so my boss sees that I'm online right now thinking of stuff. But just turning that off, and then like I try to like I'll lay there and just like stop and pray, or like I'll play music, or like try to do something so that like I'm not necessarily listening to my own thoughts in my head, just to kind of try to block it out. But also reminding myself that I'm not like defined by my work, you know, like yeah. And that also kind of has like another meaning, I guess, too, where sometimes when I am working, like if I make a mistake at work and I get upset about it, I freak out, and I'm like, but again, I'm not identified by my, like, that's not my identity. So I've been trying to like work on that as well.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's tough. It's like constantly being like, think of how we get rewarded in the workplace. Like we do a good job, we get promoted. We don't, we might get let go. and that's no different than like the Israelites coming out of exile. Like they were brick makers, like enslaved, and they were only as valuable as the bricks they could put out. And
so that's kind of been ingrained in us for
Yeah.
a long time to do that. Yeah. What kind of practical things do you do, Key?
To turn my brain off
Yeah.
from working.
Do you? That's the first question.
Like I'm easily like a workaholic, and that's the thing where it's like if I like, and I also wear a lot of hats too. Where like I'm a coach and I'm a high school coach, where I do photography and I do fitness and like I do all these things. But to me, it's never really work because I only do what I love to do. So like even when I was younger, like it was engraved in me. Like my dad would always say, if you're doing what you love, then you'll never work a day in your life. And so I kind of go through that with like that. That's pretty much my motto. But when I need to not think about things where I'm like, okay, I need to put this out. I need to send out this email. I need to post this, whatever. I think in the past 3 years, just gotten really big on like self-love, where I will always talk about my self-dates or something where I'm like, okay, we need to go and just get a smoothie. We just need to go to the park and like just chill out. And so I think what helps me get out of that work mentality is, okay, what can I do now to have that recharge? Like you said, if it's journaling, if it's going on a walk, if it's like, hey, I need to like call a friend and like we just chit chat for an hour and talk about nothing or everything. I think that's kind of where I redirect or have to tell myself to redirect, where it's like, I can't just be like, don't think about work and sit here and do nothing. I literally have to go and do something else that's almost completely opposite. That's what's been helping me. Do I not think about work when I'm doing things like that? I mean, I try not to. But that's also just talking to the creative, right? Where it's like, that's where we do find our inspiration. Like if I am on a walk, then I'll start to be like, wow, I can see the water so much differently now that I'm taking my brain away from things. And now I want to create a video about like recharging or something like that. So I think it's not bad to think about, especially our creative aspect. But to have a separation between, okay, this is something that I'm doing for work to put bread on the table, whatever it is, or this is something that's actually inspiring my creativity. And that's a good thing. And I want to be here because ultimately that's how God works, where he is creative, but he's always working on something. But I think, it just goes to like that separation of where you're compartmenting your thoughts.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to put some of these things into practice. The only thing I can do to turn my brain off is go to sleep.
Okay.
Which I'm getting better at taking naps.
You're taking naps.
Which I told you guys about. So like I used to not take naps. I wouldn't do it. But now if I just get tired, I'll just go lay down and it's helping me. Yeah, it's helping me a lot. And you don't
beat yourself up about it.
That's the thing. That's the part.
Is that why you weren't doing it? You didn't feel like it was productive?
I didn't feel like it was productive.
Or you felt guilty or something?
And I would wake up and I would feel behind. And I'm like, I can't go to sleep.
Yeah.
So I've learned to, and the other thing is I used to always feel like everything was, I guess the best way to describe it was like on a deadline. Like if I had stuff to do, it's like, it's got to get done by X amount of time.
Ooh.
And I always felt like my back was against the wall. Like I got to hurry up and get this done. I got to do this. I got to do this. And I was reading a book, I think it was called Split the Difference by an FBI agent. And he was basically saying that during negotiations, one of the biggest thing people make the mistake on is they think that when a deadline is presented, it has to be done by the deadline. And he did like this major study with some major corporations and had people not honor something by a deadline and to see what would happen. And almost 100% of the time, nothing actually happened. They just moved the deadline.
Got it.
And that was like something that I took into my life was like, although I want to finish this by this time or this date, if something happens and I don't, or if I'm just too tired, it's okay. Like I don't have to punish myself or beat myself up about that. So that's another kind of practical thing that I've done is just take my time with things. I think, not put myself against the wall like that.
I want to talk about that.
Okay.
You kind of tapped on it where it's coming from. But when we're talking about the balance between work and play, right? Working, it's fine. Like we can definitely not beat ourselves, but like really go to the bone and like get the job done. But when it comes to play, why and you can speak on your experience, but like for me, like why do we beat ourselves up? Where does that come from? In your own experience, where does it come from where you don't have grace with yourself when it comes to that play?
Yeah. So where does that come from? I think at its root, it's connected to a time in my life where, like, looking back, I see myself as a very lazy person during that time in my life where I wasn't doing a lot.
Okay.
I was going to work, I had a good job, paid the bills, but like outside of that, I just wasn't doing anything with my life. And when I had that switch after I came to Christ and I started doing more with my life, I always have like this nagging thing, like I don't want to go back there. So I think a lot of that came from that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Would you say that's like a survival mechanism? Like defense mechanism or something?
Maybe.
You think?
Yeah. Just kind of my system's way of reacting to like doing whatever it takes not to get back to that spot.
Yeah.
Which is where I think giving yourself more grace comes in. And that's something that I'm learning to do. Yeah. Because otherwise I'll just work and do stuff all the time and I will never stop.
Gosh, yeah.
Yeah. And it's not good for me.
Can you guys speak to that?
Yeah, I feel like probably a little bit similarly, like I don't want to feel like I'm being lazy, and like I think back kind of like on my childhood and like even like middle school and high school, I used to be a huge procrastinator, and like partially because I have ADD, and like but I would put things off and then I wouldn't do things, and I feel like there's a few times I can think of where I felt like I really let someone down, or like I failed, and even if that wasn't the case, like I think that's how I beat up on myself. So now I'm like, I don't want to be like that again. Yeah. And I end up kind of just going back to it, even though again, like, you know, with deadlines, most of the time, like it's okay. Or like if you ask for more time, that's fine too. But yeah. So I think that's probably why yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I think napping's never really been like something I did, mainly because I felt like I was missing out on what was going on while I was napping. So there's like some FOMO there, but the I would say the kind of the desire to maybe be working all the time was probably because I felt like I was getting like earning approval from others, because I maybe didn't have that as much as I wanted growing up.
Okay.
And so, yeah, there's this desire to like I don't know. I guess I've had to learn to be gracious with myself as well. Yeah.
You got something else?
I mean, I feel like my workaholism
Let's go with it.
workaholism came from just like, you know, after you graduate high school or college, like that's when adulting begins, especially after college, because that's like life training wheels. But when I like literally went out into LA as soon as I graduated college, and so the survival aspect definitely kicked in, because one, it's expensive out there in a city like that. But in my craft, I'm like, I don't want to work a 9-to-5 job, because then I won't be able to audition. And that's literally the only reason why I came out to LA is to make that dream come true. So with that, I had to culminate like a bunch of side jobs that would be flexible enough for me to be like, hey, I have an audition at 12, gotta go. Okay. So with that, it's like if I wasn't working, I wouldn't be able to pay rent. So that's kind of where that came from, where it's like, if I don't have this audition, I literally have to do this many hours, because I'm trading my time for money. Like I'm on this work to pay relationship, where it's like, if I am not doing anything, I'm not going to have no type of food. I'm not going to have no type of apartment. I might get evicted, whatever. So it kind of came from that fear, where it's like, yeah, deadlines are elusive in a sense, but like if I don't meet the deadline of rent, that's real. That's real. I'm gonna be out somewhere on somebody's couch, and we can't have that. So it came more from the sense of like, this has to happen, and if I'm not doing my part, then we're falling short. So I think even now, coming out to the sense of like, I am able to work where I do have that cushion. I am a little bit more financially comfortable, right? And also knowing, like you said, like knowing who God says that I am, I'm able to create these boundaries of like, no, I don't have to say yes to every single opportunity that comes just because it is an opportunity. I know who I am in God. I know who I am in Christ. So yeah, I do have the flexibility to take Sundays off. It's a Sunday, we podcast. I don't see this as work. But anywhere else, I'm like, I don't work on Sundays. That's the first thing that I say. I do not work on Sundays. Don't call me. Don't ask me for nothing. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
But for something like this, I see this as serving. So it's different where I will gladly come and do this on a Sunday. But I think that's kind of where that difference is of work and play, and finding those boundaries, and also
So I guess I'm wondering what maybe play looks like for everyone, like what that, like the Bible talks a whole lot about having like faith like a child. And I think that's purposeful. I think God's probably pretty playful and imaginative and creative himself. So like, what does play look like? Cause I think I'm asking myself like, how do I need to play more? Or what does play look like for me?
Yeah.
Ooh, good question.
Like hobbies or something. I don't know.
Yeah. That's a very, very good question. I had like this moment a few weeks ago in the car. I was coming back from somewhere. Where was it? Oh, I was actually coming back from seeing The Lion King at the Kennedy Center. It was so dope. And I remember as soon as it was over, like the experience was over and I was on the way home. And the only thing I was thinking about was all the stuff I had to do. Like, I got to get this done. I got to do this. And I was looking out the window and I think me and God just kind of had a moment. And he was like, you have to stop doing that because you're jumping from one thing and all the in-between time, nothing's happening. You're just focused on the next big thing. And he was like, no, that stuff in between, that's called life. Yeah. And you're going to miss out on all that if you don't be more intentional. So I think, at least in my personal experience, I'm learning that play is just all those small moments in life, all those in-between moments where you actually have to focus and be present and learn to enjoy those moments and find fruit in those moments and not just be so concerned about getting to the next big moment.
That reminds me, you remember that movie, that Adam Sandler movie, Click?
Yes.
Like, I always like that movie was so impactful because I always think about like how he went on autopilot and missed like all the big parts of his life.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's part of the reason why I had to set timers on my phone for like Instagram or TikTok scrolling because you know how you get like paralyzed sometimes on like just doom scrolling.
Right.
I didn't want my life to pass by, and that counts with work too. But tapping into what you're talking about, play, that's also a different relationship that I had to learn where I'm like, play is okay. And even when it came to like building relationships with people, sometimes I would see that as like networking, where I'm building these relationships so that we can work, that we can collaborate, that we can like do newer things. So when it came to meeting new people, I'm like, it's okay to just hang out and go to lunch with somebody and meet a new friend and not talk about anything productive and actually just get to know who they are as a person. So that's also something that I'm working on. But when it comes to play, I would say, still working on that. I definitely think for me, play has been like finding my release of like, I like to go to the gym. I like to work out. So I'll go there with one of my girlfriends and we'll literally just work out and like talk or chit chat.
Yeah.
Might take even longer for us to get out of there. Like we're in there for like maybe an hour and a half to maybe 2 hours. Are we working out the whole time? Probably not, but we are like peaking. We're having a good time. Yeah. And then also going to like live music events. I like to do that. There's this thing called So Far. Shameless plug. I don't know if I can do that, but So Far they do like these live music events and it's almost like live music roulette where you don't know who you're getting, what type of music it is, what genre, but it's very intimate where they'll do their set and then they'll have like 15 minutes out of their set where you could talk to the artist. You can talk to other people about the music or not about the music. And I like to do stuff like that. Yeah. So that's kind of how I'm introducing play into my life.
Yeah.
How would you guys say?
For me, I've been struggling as well with kind of introducing play into my free time. And something I've been doing more often is just being more intentional and like setting time to hang out with friends or to read my book or go on a walk and just really just enjoy my time and not stare at my screen or just sit there and do nothing. Someone recently asked me what my hobbies were and I found myself feeling a little like weird because I was like, I don't know if I have any, you know, I feel like I work so much and then even when I freelance with design, like even that, I feel like it's a hobby because it's a different type of design than what I typically do at work. But at the same time, that's more work. And I'm like, maybe I need to pick up my guitar again. So I recently have literally, there's no set time for this, but anytime I find myself with like 15 minutes, I'll grab my guitar, which I haven't played in probably 2 years. So now I'm kind of like relearning, and like it's muscle memory, but just kind of like regaining that skill. And that's been kind of fun too. Just, yeah. So that's a new thing I've been doing. And then I always say on my other hobbies, like watching TV, but I'm like, that can't be a hobby. But
Well, going off that, I think that going to the movies or watching movies is something that like I really enjoy doing. So I don't know if it's a hobby. I don't know if I'll call it that, but that's something I do often is go to the movies or I'll watch a movie. And I used to play, like a year ago, I was playing a lot of frisbee golf, and that's like a very white male thing to do, but I enjoyed it a lot. It was like peaceful. I'd like leave my phone at home. I'd take the dog. I'd, take a frisbee. I'd just go for an hour or whatever. I'd get some steps in. Like, it was relaxing. It was peaceful, but I moved, and so now there's not a course near me. So I think I'm just trying to find something playful to do that excites me, feels like it's refueling. And so I don't know, I think it sounds like we're all trying to figure that out a little bit
for sure.
Adulting.
And I think that's, I don't know, like we're all like in our, I don't know, 20s, I want to guess.
I'm in my 30s now.
But even then, like we're like went to school, whatever, we I just feel like it's so common to kind of suppress our child, whether that our inner child, whether that's like from, I don't know, trauma or just feeling like we have to grow up or we can't tap into that. But I think there's a whole lot of that we need to hold on to.
When did that kick in for you? Was there a specific time, or was it like gradual?
I think it was like right when I like finished college. Like I had this moment where like I think I had my ears pierced and my nose pierced, and I was like, I have to take all that out because I'm not going to get a job. Like I was like, I got to grow up like overnight almost.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, maybe like the first year out of school, just felt like I kind of had to let go of a lot of things that felt childish. And there's a difference between childish and childlike, but I think it was like when I started working, I just forgot how to, so maybe it was gradual, but I'm trying to figure out how to gradually get back to it.
Yeah.
definitely.
I know like having kids around will definitely help you do that. Like my nephew was staying with us for a while. He's 3.
Okay.
But you don't realize like how much having a child around brings that inner child in you back. And it'd be like, I'm at home working on my laptop. He's like, Nana, I want to play. I'm like, no, I have to get this done. He's like, no, I want to play. And I'm like, you're right, let's play. So we would go outside and like do what is it? Sidewalk chalk and like all that stuff. But it's like, I don't know what happens. And like, I also had a little sister growing up, but it's like, where's that gap from when you're pretty much in high school to like your beginning, like adult years, that when you start having kids or like your sister, like your siblings, you start having nieces or something, little cousins, that it comes back. You know what I mean? It's like adult Christmas is different when there's not kids around. Like
real.
nobody gets presents. So
Like, more practical stuff. You don't even care about toys or anything.
What?
Yeah.
No. What? When
That's
did
so
that
real.
happen?
That's so real. Friday night at church, I had to speak, and after I spoke, my sister like couldn't sit in the service because my niece was like going crazy. So I went and got her so my sister could enjoy the service. And I was like in the hallway with her, and then we went back in there, and I was telling her like, you gotta be quiet. And she was like going through my sister's purse trying to find stuff to play with. And she found a bottle of Tylenol and she was just shaking it. So we had to take all the pills out of the bottle, and then she was just opening it up, and she was walking around and people like pouring stuff in their hand.
My God.
And I was just playing with her, and I found myself, I was like, I miss just being able to have fun like that.
And
like,
have that sense of imagination too, right? Yeah,
yes. And I was
definitely.
like, just like you were saying, I was like, where did that go? Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Because even going back to you telling your niece, like, shh, we got to be quiet.
Yep.
Most times, like, people either have kids of their own or, like, they know that kids have their own mind. So it's like for us to tell a kid to be quiet, it usually doesn't necessarily bother people around us unless we're in the movies or
Right.
maybe on the plane. But other than that, people are pretty gracious about like kids being like, you're playful, right? So even us as adults being like, shh, you need to be quiet. That's almost like our conscious being like, you need to be professional. You need to get it together. You need to act a certain way. So how can we, even as young adults, find our balance with that, even where it's like, I don't need to be professional corporate all the time. I can be playful. I can yell. I can scream. I can laugh out loud, because we don't even laugh out loud anymore.
Yeah.
We'd be like, right, LOL. I didn't even laugh. I didn't even laugh. I didn't actually even laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we kind of have to get to the place where we realize that play is productive. So in what ways is play productive in our lives? Like, what does it do for us? What does it actually accomplish? And once we can answer that question, then I think we'll become like more okay with doing it.
Ooh, let's break that down.
And I think I don't know why I asked that, because that's a hard question for
But
me.
now
to
we got to
answer.
do it.
I don't know. I just think it just allows you a break from life. Not like in a grand sense, but just like the minutia and the stuff that you have to do. It allows you a mental break from all that stuff. It allows you to detach from it momentarily and just enjoy yourself. Just not worrying about so many other things, which is hard to do, especially when you got bills and all that stuff. To be sitting somewhere acting goofy, you're like, nah, I need to be somewhere making money. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's the productive thing, is it allows you to detach.
Yeah.
Definitely. To escape your worries and all that kind of stuff. Just be able to detach from everything.
Wait, okay, going back to your question. Of how do we, what was it?
What makes play productive?
Ooh, okay. I feel like those are definitely contradictory words, play and productive. But does it have to be?
Yeah.
Can we make, you're asking how can we make those almost synonymous? I don't know.
At certain times. Yeah.
At certain times.
Yeah.
In my eyes, creativity is productive and fun. So for my answer, it's to create.
Okay. I can see that.
My brain was going towards like vacation because like we're in a mode of work. We need to take that break. And whether it's like somewhere local or if you literally go somewhere else, like, you know, them people who just be living their lives where they be traveling. I'm like, what do you do for work? You know what I mean? So I don't know where I was really going with that, but finding how you can have fun while you're working, or finding that play, that productivity when you're resting.
Yeah. That just sparked another thought.
Okay. We're just bouncing right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
In that, so in the serious stuff that you have to do on a daily basis, like your actual jobs that you do, in what ways have you made or have you found to make certain parts of that fun for you or enjoyable? Like, okay, if you enjoy what you do as a whole, but there are some tasks that you just dread doing that you don't want to do on a daily basis. How have you found like to make that stuff more enjoyable for yourself?
So for me personally, some of the not so fun stuff in my day-to-day job is we do a lot of research. I do a lot of package design with different brands. So I've been trying to make it fun by like, I found a bunch of resources I can go on and look up fun pictures or just finding that inspiration. It's cool to search different things and like look at different websites or like play a game, or sometimes I'll go to the grocery store and I'll walk through the store and look at the flavors of the product that I'm working on, or I'll buy it and try it. And it's just, I don't know, kind of spices it up and makes my work a little more fun. And it also gets me out of the house. So yeah.
I don't know. I think I think sometimes like it's just not supposed to be, or it's not going to be fun, but I try to look forward to the parts that are fun, or just remind myself that this is part of work, and like I don't always have say over what I get to do or don't do, but I don't know, try to be grateful that I have a job, like just sprinkle some gratitude in there, and it helps me push through. But I don't know. I think, granted that it's a ministry role where I work, like I interact with a lot of people, and I think that is often a lot of fun for me, getting to just connect with people. So that sometimes like kind of distracts me from the part that is not so fun. So yeah.
I feel like sometimes to make it more interesting for yourselves, especially when it gets into like the mundane schedule of working and stuff like that, is bringing your own personal flair to it. Where it's like, especially if we're working in like a corporate sense, or like even just like with a company where it's like, this is how it's supposed to be, just adding your 1% of your own personality to it makes it a little bit more personable for you. And it also adds a little extra flair to what you're doing on the delivery end, and also like from your exertion end. For example, like say with me coaching like a fitness class, sometimes it gets mundane for me if I'm like, all right, we're gonna do this today and this is the rate we're gonna do it at, blah blah blah. I have to bring it out in my music because I'm controlling the playlist and everything. So I'll go through my playlist of personal songs and be like, great, this song is a banger, I be jamming. And I have to detach my like how I'm seeing them receive it. Sometimes if I'm like, they're not singing the words along, they hate this song, they hate me as a coach, blah blah blah, like it'll go there. But at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, if I'm energized from what I'm putting out, that changes the way that I'm delivering it. And also, there's never been a time where I play a song and they're like, oh, we hate this song. They're like, we love this playlist today. You know, so it just makes it a little bit more interesting when you can bring your personality into what you're doing. That's usually kind of boring or repetitive.
Definitely. That kind of made me think of something I was talking with my boss about last week. A lot of the clients we work with, we have pretty strict guidelines of what we can do, but we always like to include an option in our rounds. We call it mild to wild. So the wild one is like what we would kind of do, and like sometimes maybe they like a piece of that and we take one element and add it to their more corporate standard design. But that's something fun that we have done to kind of just,
I love that,
explore and make a lot of mood boards too.
That's dope. I think that's a great point. Now that you say it, I've actually done that before.
Yeah.
It has made certain things better.
makes it better.
Yeah. I think that's a good practical.
Because sometimes we get afraid of like, I can't add myself to this because it's not what's expected. It's not what was written on my role description.
Right.
But most times that's where the more elaborative and more like constructive things come out of, where it's like, hey, I was just playing with this. Can we try this out? And more times more times than none, they'll be like, oh, we didn't even think of it that way. Let's run that.
Right.
You know? And it's just more fun for you because you're like, hey, I have a little identity in this. Let's do that.
Yeah, you. I wanted to ask a question. You made a point earlier about, we're talking about rest, and you said self-love, and I think self-love is like this pretty popular topic in culture. But you know, I guess at what point is self-love like maybe selfish? Like, have you ever asked yourself that? Or has anyone ever made you feel selfish for practicing self-love? Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's something that I was trying to unbury from my childhood, where sometimes I would get, oh, you're so selfish. You only think about yourself, blah, blah, blah. Whether that was from friends or family. And I couldn't understand that because that was never my intention of like, oh, I'm doing this for myself. It would just be, no, this is how I see it. This is my perspective. So when it came time for me to start going into that idea of self-love, yeah, there was that battle of like, oh, I'm taking this time away when, you know, maybe I should be doing this with this person or something. But it's something that clicks where you're recharging, rather I need to fill my cup so I can overflow. Which, for an example, like my birthdays, I used to be so big on like, oh, I need to have all these people here and we need to go to dinner and I need to do something nice because people are coming, rather than it's my day. I don't want to organize and people's plans cancel and then my feelings are hurt because nobody's sitting with me at the dinner table. So at this point, I just do self-love birthdays where I'm like, I don't care what you guys are doing. I'm going to celebrate myself. And if you guys want to celebrate me, we can do whatever you want to do when I'm done celebrating. But this is my day. And I don't feel selfish about it because this is what I want to do. And me trying to coordinate schedules, it just stresses me out. So I'm not trying to do all that. But yeah, there has to be a click between what's selfish and what self-love is. Because when you change that perspective of I'm doing this for myself so I can overflow, rather than I'm cutting somebody else out of my life, how are they going to feel? There's a big difference. It's a big difference.
I think in my experience, it's kind of the opposite. I think a lot of the people around me encourage me to show myself more self-love and not to spend so much time trying to do for others, because I end up in a deficit and I end up tired and I end up just not showing myself the attention that I need sometimes. So luckily I have people around me who love me enough to say, hey, no, you need to focus on you for a second. What do you need in this moment? And I'm trying to get better at that. But I think that goes right along with that work aspect of what we've been discussing today. Is the reason I wasn't doing that is because I was more focused on doing things, and not necessarily focusing on what I needed as a person.
Yeah, I think we can like really only take care of others when we've like taken care of ourselves, kind of what you're talking about with overflow. And I agree. Like, I feel similar. It's been easy to try to like give. And then at a point you're like, what do I have left to give? I feel like so depleted. So,
Because after a certain amount, like even what you're giving out is not of quality. Because you don't really have anything to give in the first place. So you're doing them a disservice as well as yourself at that point. Yeah.
That's good. That's good, y'all. Do you have anything else you want to add on to this topic?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Dope conversation.
Yeah. No, really. So this next section of our show is called Questions from the Audience, where we answer questions from our audience, people in here, or comments from our videos in our comments. Did that make sense? Anyways, you know what I'm saying? We're going to do questions from the audience. What you guys got?
We're going to repeat the questions. The mic's not plugged up today.
Oh, I was just going to say.
Yeah. So we'll repeat it for you.
Okay, bye.
All right. So question number 1: how do you kill the comparison between other people and what stage of life they are in when it comes to work?
Repeat the question, Cal. What did she say? How do you kill the comparison between other people and what stage of life they're in when it comes to work and play?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is that just because you've seen somebody else playing doesn't mean you can play, or you see somebody else working doesn't mean you need to work. They are just in a different area of their life. They might have worked for many more years than you and they have more money so they can play more and it's not going to hurt them. That doesn't mean you can go out and buy yourself a Beamer like they have because you're going to put yourself in a bad situation. So I think just understanding that, just like the question said, people are in a different stage of their life. So your play is not going to reflect theirs and your work is not going to reflect theirs either. It has to reflect where you are in your life and what fits you, what's comfortable for you. Yeah.
That's a really good answer. That's something that sorry. I feel the click over. No, that's a really good answer. That's something that I feel like recently I've struggled with just a little bit. As I've been kind of on this journey of like, I guess a little bit of self-love, but also I would say sometimes I think I am being selfish because I'm trying to like set boundaries. And I have a lot of friends who maybe they're not doing that. And I would struggle kind of with like, I would not judging them, but just kind of like, well, you're not going to rest, like you're going to keep working, or you're going to, vice versa. But I realize, we're at different points, and like maybe I work more, maybe I work less, maybe they work more than me. But yeah, I don't know if that makes sense.
No, yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I know I've like compared myself to others before and felt like I wasn't where I felt like I needed to be in comparison to some friends who had like jobs that seemed more exciting or in more interesting cities, all that. But I think it comes back to a lot of what you've been saying is different stages of life. We're all like individuals and no two stories or two lives look identical. And I think we have to like we have to be grateful. Like, and maybe that sounds cheesy, but I mean like, if you like just spend a few moments like every week, just being grateful for like what God's given you, what you have, like I think it takes away a lot of like it helps you to like actually look at that and not let your eyes wander to like what you don't have.
Yeah.
And, so I've had to do that because I have a tendency to think the grass is greener. And like you talk about people taking trips like crazy. I'm like, I think they just have a lot of credit card debt. Like, but they're just taking trips every month. And I don't know if they got the means.
True.
I be having those same thoughts,
Yeah.
bro.
Right.
I went to Myrtle Beach this year, and I was
Yeah.
like, "This is breaking the bank," and it's like
Okay,
2 hours
one
away.
trip.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh my
Myrtle
God.
Beach, and they're like
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
Caribbean, like
I don't get it.
so.
No, yeah. I think, and this is something that I was also listening to in the sermons this morning, but like when it comes to killing that comparison, you have to realize that what God has for you is coming in the time that He has for you. So, like, to compare ourselves with our peers or our friends or like other people that we might even inspire to like have a similar life towards, it's like if I am looking down on my life or like on my progress or whatever I'm doing in my life to be less than, I'm discounting what God is about to bring into my life. So we almost have to have those blinders, and whatever that means, where you're like, I can't be looking at people what they're posting, or I can't go out and see people this way and just assume this type of thing about them. I need to stay focused in my relationship with God and really discern like what He's telling me, what His promise is for my life. Because right now it might just be that I'm here in this season, and that's preparing me for what's coming up next.
Yep.
Yeah, that comparison is hard because we're human, but at the same time, if we have that relationship with God, it grounds us and also broadens our perspective to say, I trust Him. And whatever is coming, I know it's fruitful.
What's the next question?
Prioritize work over play and vice versa.
Is it biblical to prioritize work versus play and vice versa? Biblical.
I know you're. What does the Bible say about working?
My brain kind of immediately goes back to the scripture you were talking about, Brandon. Faith like a child. Just I can't think necessarily of a biblical passage that says, "Hey, goof off for a second in your life." But I do know God wants us to have life and have it more abundantly, and I have to believe that part of that is just enjoying yourself. I don't think He wants us to suffer. I think He gave us a sense of humor for a reason. I think He gave us emotions for a reason. So if He didn't want us to enjoy that stuff, I don't think we would necessarily have it.
Yeah.
So I think that's how you can connect it to the Bible, kind of. Yeah.
What? Oh, did you have something?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, I mean, if we look at the creation story, like Genesis 1, like it starts off like God created the world out of nothing. And then after 6 days of working, He rests on the seventh. So I guess on one hand, you could say that there's more work than rest in that. So maybe it is biblical to prioritize work over rest, but not to the point where you're not resting at all. I think He probably says work's a good thing. It's how we provide for ourselves. It's and our families. And then rest is how we like take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
But He doesn't want us to be lazy or sloth-like. So it's probably finding like a balance or a rhythm where you use the two to live a healthy life. One where you're not working yourself to the bone, and one where you're not laying around doing nothing. So,
Right.
Yeah. Real quick, something that you just said about the creation story. In the creation story, like every time God created something, He stopped for a moment and said, "That was good." So I think when we play, I think that's how we enjoy the work that we've done. That's us taking a step back, saying, "That was good." Let me
Right.
enjoy this for a moment. Yeah.
There was a
good.
time where I was feeling like the work that I was doing wasn't being productive, or it wasn't paying off in the way that I thought it would. And so I want to say it was Isaiah 59. I want to say it's 59 or 49, but God led me to it. And it was basically talking about, He was saying, all the work that I'm doing is in vain. Like, what is happening? And God just reminded him, like, hey, the work that you're doing is going to be in due time. But in the meantime, I need you to keep being who you are, because that's what's going to bring other nations to me. And so when it comes to us finding that we are punishing ourselves for not working enough or doing too much work, God is also saying, like, you're doing enough. You're doing everything that I need you to do. You don't need to beat yourself up about that. But at the same time, I need you to enjoy this, because if you overlook all the work that you're doing, it's going to take away from what I'm trying to do through you. And I'm trying to bring people to you so that they can find me. And we can't overlook that. Even if we feel like we're doing a lot of stuff at one time, there's a purpose behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we gotta chill out sometimes.
For real.
Yeah.
Anything else? Good.
Okay.
This segment of our podcast is called SOS, Subject on the Spot. This is where we get a 60-second sermon, and we're going to get a topic this season, and you're going to get a word, and you have to use both of those in your 60-second sermon. So, today we got a bunch of people in the room. So, first of all, who wants to go first today? We got 2 guests.
Beebens.
I'll go. Yeah.
Brandon wants to go first? Okay. So, we got to get a topic and a word for Brandon. We're going to collaborate with those in the room. Any topic ideas? Chicken. The topic is chicken.
Okay.
And what's the word?
Carnival.
Carnival.
The topic is chicken.
And the word is carnival.
You have to
Has
gotta
to
talk
be-
about chicken and use the word carnival.
Okay. Here we go.
3, 2, 1.
So when we think about a chicken, we think about all the parts that make up the body. And some we might prefer over the others, but when it comes to fulfilling the mission of what God's called us to do, it is the body as one sum that is most effective and not the individual parts. And when you think about all the food that you might find at a carnival, there's a lot of variety. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'm convinced that
You
Take
got
it to the
You got
cross.
it.
Take it to the cross.
there is, we might even think that there's fools and there's like the outcasts at the carnival, but again, those are part of the body, and that is what we need to the whole body to fulfill the mission. Yeah.
Beep, 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 beep.
I,
Wow, winner, chicken dinner.
Good work.
Yeah, I would have never connected the parts of the chicken to the body of Christ.
Ooh,
That was
okay,
dope.
all right. I see where you're going.
That was dope.
I don't know if I
the
can do
carnival
that.
You
was
can.
like,
It's hard. It's hard. Ooh, love.
All right. Who's next?
I can go in the
You
middle
want to go next?
'cause I don't want to finish it. Okay, what we got for our topic? Topic is model. Okay.
What's the word?
What's the word? Dove? Like a bird? Okay.
3.
Ooh, the model. Okay. Models. Models are perceived as a certain ideal, right? Especially today, we have a more broader sense of what a model is, whether that's aesthetic based off their looks or based off their behaviors as like a role model, or even as a model as something that you're building as your template, right? It's basically our blueprint of what should be executed, right? Whether it's a consumer product or something that we're building out. It's a model. It's something that builds the picture. Now, as we're going through finding what the model is, you want it to be something that is grandiose, something that is of high quality, and something that brings oh my God. Dove. Dove. Oh my gosh.
High quality, something with dove-like features.
There we go. Dove-like features. I said dove. I said dove. Oh gosh. Wait. I want to do over. That was crazy.
yeah.
Welcome to SOS. All right, Taryn, would you like to go next?
Sure.
Or
I'll go
next?
next. I'll go next. I don't know if I do.
Your topic is popcorn.
Popcorn.
Okay.
Your word is
Barbie.
Barbie. Good
That's
one.
very fitting for the time.
Popcorn. Barbie.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
So Barbie's very popular right now as the new Barbie movie is out. And there's a lot of hidden messages in there. There's a lot of actual biblical teachings apparently throughout the movie. When I went to the theater and I was watching it, we had popcorn, and as I was eating the popcorn, we were thinking about one of the messages of how to love yourself and how to take time to like enjoy the real world and to I don't know where I'm going with this. And just how to kind of like just live your life fully for yourself, but also thinking about others and how the world is a better place with men and women and all of us in it together, and that one gender should not dominate the world. And I believe that's similar to how God meant for the world to be. And that's, yeah. That was not good.
3, 2, 1. Yes. Okay, you tied that together.
I tried.
That was good.
It was okay.
Bree, be nice.
Your topic.
Topic is gardening.
Gardening.
Topic is gardening. Your word is
Gardening.
topic
Broken
is
glass?
gardening. Your word is broken glass. 3, 2, 1.
Sometimes in life,
Sometimes in life.
you find yourself out in the garden of your life trying to plant the flowers when the storms have come through and uprooted all the plants and they're all over the yard, and you're trying to water them and get them replanted so that they can grow, so that you can see some fruit in your life. And you're digging through the dirt and you forgot to put your gloves on, and you come across a piece of broken glass and you cut your hand, and your initial thought is to stop gardening and just allow whatever's going on in your life to happen. But you have to stop, put a Band-Aid on that cut, get back to rebuilding your life, get back to planting those plants so that you can grow fruit, not only for yourself, but for those around you, because that fruit's going to help them, nourish them, help them to grow and to be better. So when you're gardening, watch out for that broken glass. But if you come across them, it's okay. Take your time, heal your wounds, and keep on gardening.
There we go.
That's how it's
That was
done.
nice.
That's how it's done.
I just thought of a good ending to mine.
After the fact.
As it's over.
Wow. that was
Brandon.
Amazing.
Taryn, thank you.
Yes.
This was a great
Of course,
conversation.
yeah.
Thanks for
blessing
having
us. Thank you
Happy
for
to be
blessing
here.
us, y'all.
Before we go, how can people find you on social media?
You can find me on Instagram at Lyons Design CO, and my personal is Taryn_Michelle.
I'm on Instagram at Brandon Bennick, BrandonBennick. That's it.
Yeah.
Dope.
And Twitter, if you want to
Come
hear
on,
my
he's
thoughts.
he has some quality tweets. I mean,
Yeah. But yeah, Instagram, Twitter.
All right, cool.
All right.
Thank you guys so
Yeah.
much.
yeah.
Yes, we'll
Thank
see you
you.
guys next time.
Peace.
Thank you guys for watching Christ Culture, the podcast. If this resonated with you, make sure to share it.
Yeah, go follow us on Spotify, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and leave some comments. We want to hear from you guys this season.
Definitely join in the conversation because we'd love to stay connected with y'all.
Yeah. Thanks for watching.
See ya.
Peace.